There is a place on the Mediterranean coast where billionaires leave their cars unlocked, where diamond jewelry is worn in open restaurants without a second thought, where watches worth more than family homes sit on wrists in public squares, where serious crime, robbery, assault, organized theft is so rare that many people who have lived there for years say they have never witnessed a single incident. This place is smaller than Central Park in New York. It holds one of the highest concentrations of millionaires and billionaires anywhere on Earth, and it ranks among the world's safest places. In most cities, extreme wealth creates extreme risk. The richer the area, the higher the walls. The more valuable the assets, the greater the security required to protect them. Concentrated wealth in large cities attracts organized crime. It is one of the most consistent patterns in urban history. This place ignores that pattern entirely. Its name is Monaco, and what makes it safe is not wealth. It is engineering, deliberate, layered, and decades in the making. Subscribe right now, because once you understand how Monaco built this system, every other city's approach to security looks incomplete. Chapter 1. The paradox that should not exist. Walk through any major financial hub, London, Zurich, Singapore, and wealth and security operate in visible tension. The rich live in secure towers. They travel with private guards. Their collections sit in vaults. Even with all of that, high-value crime remains a regular feature of wealthy urban environments. Concentrated money attracts people who want to take it. That is not a theory. It is a pattern that repeats itself in every wealthy city on Earth. Monaco has a population of around 38,000 people. Among them is one of the world's densest concentrations of ultra-wealthy individuals. Superyachts worth hundreds of millions sit in Port Hercules. Luxury towers overlook the sea. Art collections and portable wealth of enormous value exist across the principality. By conventional logic, Monaco should be among the most targeted places on Earth. And yet the crime numbers are extraordinary. Not low for a wealthy area, low by any standard anywhere on Earth. The question is why? And the answer starts not with money, but with a map. Chapter 2, 2 square kilometers with nowhere to go. Monaco covers just over 2 square kilometers. That physical fact is the foundation of the entire security system. Because a country this small offers criminals something that makes every other calculation irrelevant. There is almost nowhere to go. In a major city, a criminal who commits a theft has options. Dozens of exit routes. Crowd cover, neighboring districts. Underground networks. Anonymity is available almost immediately after the act. That is what makes large cities workable targets even when they have strong police forces. Monaco has a different geography. The principality is bordered on 3 sides by France and on the 4th by the Mediterranean Sea. There is a limited number of roads in and out. The main rail connection passes through monitored stations. The port has security infrastructure. Enter with criminal intent, and the primary challenge is not the act itself. It is leaving. Law enforcement between Monaco and France works closely together. The roads, ports, and transport links are few enough to be monitored simultaneously. There are no vast suburbs to disappear into. No unmonitored back streets. No neighborhood where a stranger blends in. For organized criminal networks, Monaco represents an environment where the exit risk is simply too high. The reward calculation may be attractive. The exit calculation is not. Many choose not to operate here at all. Subscribe here because the layers beneath the geography are where the system becomes genuinely remarkable. Chapter 3. The country with eyes everywhere. Walk through Monaco, and the first thing you notice is the calm. Almost too calm. Quiet in the way that completely controlled environments tend to be. That calm is built. Thousands of cameras watch streets, tunnels, public squares, port areas, parking structures, and building entrances across the principality. The same geographic compactness that limits escape routes also enables full camera coverage. 2 square kilometers can be viewed in their entirety. In a large city, that level of coverage would require enormous resources and still leave gaps. In Monaco, there are very few gaps. Blind spots, the places criminals in larger cities learn to use, are kept small by design. The coverage is not perfect. No system is. But it is thorough enough that any movement through public space carries a real chance of being recorded, identified, and traced. For anyone thinking about a crime in Monaco, the question is not whether cameras exist. It is whether it is possible to move through the principality without appearing on one. The answer, across most of its 2 square kilometers, is no. Chapter 4. The ratio that changes everything. Behind the cameras sits the human layer. Monaco maintains one of the highest police-to-population ratios in the world. Uniformed officers are visible throughout the principality. But the visible layer is only the surface. Plainclothes officers work across public spaces, luxury venues, and port areas where concentrations of high-value individuals are highest. Specialized units focus on financial crime, border monitoring, and the risks posed by a population that includes significant numbers of ultra-wealthy individuals, government officials, and major business figures from many countries. The police force in Monaco is not simply protecting public safety. It is protecting the economic environment. The safety of residents and the assets they bring to the principality are equally important to the principality's functioning. Without both, Monaco does not work as a place where the world's wealthiest individuals choose to live. The police presence is not just a public service. It is a core part of what Monaco sells. Chapter 5. The social layer nobody sees. The cameras and the police are visible. The third layer of Monaco's security is almost invisible to outsiders. Monaco is a very tight community. A population of 38,000 spread over 2 square kilometers creates a sense of social closeness that most wealthy cities never experience. People know each other here in ways that are unusual for their level of wealth. Concierge staff know residents. Building managers know who lives in every apartment. Port workers know which yachts are in and which have moved. Restaurant staff recognize regular visitors. The social fabric is woven tightly enough that unusual behavior, unfamiliar faces, and out-of-place patterns register quickly. Not because people are watching in a formal sense. Because in a community, this small, unusual things are simply noticed. Cameras can miss a face. A concierge who recognizes every resident in a building does not miss a stranger who does not belong. A harbor worker who knows every yacht crew notices when a face does not fit. A hotel doorman who sees the same guests every morning notices the person who should not be there. In this way, the community itself acts as an additional security layer, not through active surveillance, but through the natural attentiveness of a small, connected society where most people have a personal or professional reason to notice who is where. That layer cannot be installed, it cannot be purchased or designed. It exists because Monaco is small enough that it simply develops on its own. Chapter 6. The price of perfect safety. Monaco's system is extraordinary. It is also, by design, one of the most watched civilian environments on Earth. The cameras that make crime nearly impossible also mean that movement through public spaces is not private in the way it is in most cities. The close social networks that notice strangers also notice residents. The police presence that deters criminals is a consistent part of everyday life. Some observers describe Monaco as a luxury surveillance state, a place where safety is purchased not through the absence of monitoring, but through the near-total presence of it. The line between security and surveillance in Monaco is very thin. For many residents, this is not a concern. The alternative, the real risks that comparable concentrations of wealth attract in less controlled places, is considered considerably worse. For people who have lived with genuine threats to their safety, the cameras are not a cost. They are the point. Monaco does not offer freedom from observation. It offers freedom from threat. For most residents, that exchange is not a compromise. It is the reason they chose to be here. The system works. The statistics are not marketing. They are the documented results of a system that functions as it was designed. Every city wants to be safer. Very few could or would accept the level of monitoring required to ensure Monaco's safety. The principality works because of a specific combination of geography, population size, social character, and political will. Change any one of those elements, and the system begins to fall apart. Monaco built something genuinely rare. Whether that makes it a model or an exception is a question that urban planners and security experts are still working through. But for the 38,000 people who live here, many of them among the wealthiest on Earth, many of them with personal experience of what genuine personal risk feels like in environments without this level of protection, the answer is already clear. They chose Monaco because of this system, not despite it. Drop a comment with your view, because where the line sits between security and surveillance is one of the most important questions modern cities are being asked to answer. And subscribe, because the world's most extraordinary places are never exactly what they appear from the outside.